The prosecution can go ahead and announce themselves as well as the attorneys, or as the witnesses, excuse me.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. My name is Danny Gazzelli, and I will be conducting the direct examination of Kyle Kuzak, the cross-examination of Blake Van Owen. My co-counsel will now introduce themselves.
Good afternoon. My apologies. Good afternoon, Your Honor, member of the jury and opposing counsel. My name is Avery Martin. I'll be doing the direct of Alex Fuentes, the cross of Taylor Perkins in the opening statement.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Jack Walker, and I will be conducting the direct examination of Detective Markowitz, the cross of Avery Becker, as well as the closing statement for the prosecution.
May our witnesses please introduce themselves?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Sawyer Beardsley, and today I'm Alex Fuentes.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Sutton Damiano, and today I will be Kyle Kuzak.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Max Elder, and I will be Detective Jordan Markowitz.
Jack, if you can see if you can increase the volume on your unit, that would help. You're a little bit soft, okay? The defense may go ahead and introduce themselves as well as their witnesses.
Your Honor, counsel, members of the jury, my name is Chalmers Powell, and I have the honor of representing the defendant in this case, Avery Becker.
Your Honor, counsel, members of the jury, my name is Madeline Proctor, and today I represent the defendant in this case, Avery Becker.
Your Honor, counsel, members of the jury, my name is Ashlyn Bierrick, and today I have the privilege of representing Avery Becker in this case.
Your Honor, may our witnesses now introduce themselves?
Please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, counsel, members of the jury. My name is Trenton Schultz, and I am Taylor Perkins.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, counsel, members of the jury. My name is Jordan Merriweather, and I am Blake Van Owen.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, counsel, members of the jury. My name is Juliette Brunner, and I am Avery Becker.
Thank you. All right, team members, if you can please raise your right hands. Team members, do you promise that the presentation you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition?
I do.
I do.
I do.
Thank you. Witnesses, can you please raise your right hand? Witnesses, do you promise that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problems, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of the mock trial competition?
I do.
I do.
All right, scoring panelists, if you can all raise your right hands as well. Do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and rules of the mock trial competition?
I will.
Your Honor.
I do.
Thank you. All right, are there any pre-trial matters that we need to take care of before getting started? Prosecution?
Yes, Your Honor. Does Your Honor and members of the jury have copies of the stipulations?
Yes.
And do you also have copies of our team's trial roster?
They're on the chat, I think.
We would ask if we could reserve remaining time for a rebuttal in the closing argument.
Certainly.
Do witnesses have copies of all of the proposed exhibits and their witness statements?
Well, I think that's up to your witnesses.
And finally, we would ask if there was any technical difficulties that the time will be stopped for both teams.
Yes, if there's any technical difficulties, we'll deal with that.
Thank you.
Anything else, counsel? All right. Defense?
Your Honor, we request that those stipulated facts may be constructively read into the record.
Certainly.
And then also, while entering an exhibit, may we ask the witness and counsel to refer to their case material, and then if it is admitted, we request it to be screen shared to the jury.
Certainly, you can do that either before or afterwards.
With that, Your Honor, the defense is ready to proceed.
Thank you. Does the prosecution wish to make an opening statement at
Yes,
this
Your
time?
Honor.
Whenever you're ready.
She walked up the front steps, tried the door, locked, then through the side gate, up the stairs, again to the back door. She slid the back door open without a second thought. She froze. Standing with a knife in his hand was Mr. Brackman. He heard Avery try the front door. He heard the gate and the back door open. Avery had no plan. She never did. She did what she knew how to do best: improvise. Without thinking, blinded by her anger, she lunged for the knife. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Your Honor, today we will prove beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant, Avery Becker, is guilty of 2 crimes. Avery Becker had the means, the opportunity, and most importantly, the motive to seek revenge against Coach Brackman. Improvisation was Avery's specialty. It's what started the fights between her and Coach Brackman. He wanted her to show up, to be present, but instead of preparing for mock trial, she decided to wing it. This conflict with Coach Brackman is why she was kicked off the mock trial team and ultimately why we are here today. Today we will present all the evidence that proves beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant, Avery Becker, is guilty of the felony murder of her mock trial coach, Mackenzie Brackman. On March 6, 2020, Avery Becker illegally entered Mr. Brackman's house, where he was waiting with a knife from the knife block. They struggled over the knife, making scuff marks in the floor and knocking into a table, shattering a plate. In this struggle, Avery gained control of the knife and stabbed Mr. Brackman, leaving him to die so she could escape. Our 3 witnesses will provide the evidence to corroborate this story. First, you will hear from Avery Becker's mock trial teammate, Alex Fuentes. Alex will testify about the deep anger, the hatred even, that the defendant had for Coach Brackman after he kicked her off the mock trial team. Alex's testimony will show you the defendant's clear and unmistakable motive to seek revenge against Coach Brackman. Next, you will hear from Detective Jordan Markowitz. Detective Markowitz will testify about his expert analysis of the defendant's cell phone records. This expert testimony will prove that the defendant was at Coach Brackman's house at the time of the murder and therefore had the opportunity to commit the murder. Finally, you will hear from certified crime scene reconstructionist investigator Kyle Kuzak. Ms. Kuzak will testify as an expert about her detailed analysis of the crime scene. Her expert testimony will show that the defendant, during a struggle with Coach Brackman, was able to stab him with a knife taken from the knife block and inflict the fatal wound, killing Mr. Brackman. Additionally, Ms. Kuzak will talk about the evidence depicting a clear struggle between the perpetrator and the victim. This important testimony proves that the defendant had the means to commit the murder. Avery Becker is charged with 2 crimes. Count 1 is felony murder in the 1st degree, and count 2 is 2nd-degree burglary of a dwelling. Our witness testimonies will show you that she is guilty of both these counts beyond a reasonable doubt. We ask that you find the defendant, Avery Becker, guilty of both counts and not let her improvise her way out of this once again. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Does the defense wish to make an opening statement at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Whenever you're ready, counsel.
Justice doesn't come in a puzzle box with a picture on top. It's Friday, March 6th. Detective Markowitz gets a call to the home of Mackenzie Brackman. Mr. Brackman is dead in the doorway and there's a bloody knife nearby. He continues to investigate, but he does not have any DNA. He does not have any fingerprints and he does not have any suspects. Looking to find one, he calls the first member of Mr. Brackman's mock trial team, Alex Fuentes, who immediately points the finger at Avery Becker. The detective zeroes in. See, this is his chance to put the picture on the box of puzzle pieces. In an effort to make all the pieces fit, the detective misses key pieces along the way. The scheming witness, the alibi, and the alternate suspect. Avery Becker was a senior at Colorado High School. She was the star of the mock trial team. Miss Becker was talented, but she wasn't perfect. When Mr. Brackman told her she didn't deserve any of the awards she had won at the regional tournament, she let her emotions get the best of her. She took a Sharpie to Mr. Brackman's car. Kicked off the team for good, she went home, licked her wounds, and tried to make amends. But she did not put on a mask and break into Mr. Brackman's home, and she did not stab him in the back. Good afternoon, Your Honor, members of the jury and counsel. My name is Ashlyn Barrick, and together with Chalmers Powell and Madeline Proctor, we have the privilege of representing Miss Avery Becker in today's trial. The prosecution must prove to you each and every element of each and every crime. They will fail you. As they do, pay attention to three things: the screenshots, the cell tower records, and stronger suspect. The screenshots. Detective Markowitz let Alex Fuentes send him screenshots of text messages that she claims came from Avery Becker. The detective didn't confirm that these text messages were sent by Avery Becker, even though he claims he's an expert in cell phone data recovery. The detective didn't question that Alex Fuentes took a full day to send these screenshots, and he didn't question that Alex Fuentes forgot her phone on the day of the interview in the first place. Can the prosecution really prove that Avery Becker sent these screenshots? Cell tower records. These records are just dangerous enough to point the finger at Avery Becker, but too vague to do much else. They won't tell you where Avery Becker was on this day. She was with Taylor Perkins all day. They won't tell you if she had her phone. She didn't. Alex Fuentes was the last one with it. And they won't rule out any alternate suspects whose motive, intent, and means were far greater than Miss Becker's. Ask yourself, what do these cell tower records really prove? And the stronger suspect, a fellow student at Colorado High School, Blair Rowlands. Blair Rowlands' father was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison. His attorney was Mackenzie Brackman. Blair Rowlands only lived a few blocks away from Avery Becker, and Blair Rowlands was never investigated for this case. Why did no one question Rowlands? At the end of this trial, Miss Madeline Proctor will walk you through the minefield of reasonable doubt. The ignored screenshots, the ignored alibi, and the ignored stronger suspect. She will ask you for a verdict of not guilty, because justice doesn't come in a box with a picture on top. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Is the prosecution ready to call their first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution calls Miss Alex Fuentes to the stand.
Mr. Fuentes, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed when ready, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Can you please state your full name and spell your last name for the jury?
Hi, my name is Alex Fuentes, Sifuentes.
And where do you currently go to school?
Currently, I'm a senior at Colorado High School, but everyone just calls it CHS.
Do you know the victim in this case?
Yes, I was a member of the CHS mock trial team with Mr. Brackman as my coach. I was a junior at the time of Mr. Brackman's death.
What did you think about Mr. Brackman?
He was an amazing coach and a talented litigator. He was always finding ways to improve our team and our team's performance.
Do you know the defendant in this case, Avery Becker?
Yes, Avery and I went to the same school and were on the mock trial team together.
And how would you describe your relationship with Avery?
Avery and I have always been very close. She was actually the one who convinced me to try out for mock trial in the first place. I really liked her, and we were practically best friends when we were on the team together.
And how many years were you on the mock trial team with Avery?
I would say we were on the team together for about 3 years.
What qualities or attributes did Avery bring to the mock trial team?
Well, Avery played several witness roles over the years, and she had this amazing ability to make things up on the witness stand and make you believe that it was completely true.
And based on what you personally observed, how did Avery conduct herself on the mock trial team?
Based on what I saw, Avery was always late to practice and was never prepared. But, like I said, she was talented at making things up on the fly.
And again, based on what you personally observed, how did the other members of the mock trial team feel about Avery?
It looked to me like most of the people on our team could not stand Avery because she was always late and never prepared for practice. The team was always anxious about Avery's behavior.
How do you personally feel about Avery Becker's conduct in mock trial?
I mean, I did not like the way that she talked to our mock trial teammates or to Mr. Brackman.
What did you observe about Avery and Mr. Brackman's relationship in mock trial?
The relationship was always back and forth. It seemed like Mr. Brackman was frustrated with Avery and Avery was frustrated with Mr. Brackman. He was always telling Avery to do a better job, but Avery always simply refused.
How did Avery react to Mr. Brackman telling her to do a better job?
It seemed like Avery hated Mr. Brackman for this, and Avery always played the victim and refused to work hard.
So I'd like to discuss the regional mock trial tournament. Did something significant happen to the team before the tournament?
Yes, before the tournament, Coach Brackman demoted Avery to B team.
And how did Avery deal with being demoted to B team?
Well, right after being demoted, Avery talked to Taylor Perkins, Avery's second best friend, and somehow convinced Taylor to quit the A team for her.
What happened after Taylor quit the A team for Avery?
Mr. Brackman was then forced to bring Avery back to the A team.
And how did the team react to this?
The whole team was pretty upset.
After all this drama, what happened with Avery at the regional tournament?
Avery then won Best Attorney Award and Best Closing Argument Award.
And what happened at the next mock trial practice after the regional tournament?
At the next practice, Mr. Brackman officially kicked her off the team.
Were you aware of any reason that Mr. Brackman gave for kicking Avery off the team?
From what I remember, Mr. Brackman tried to explain to Avery that she should not confuse good showmanship with good lawyering. He told her that what Avery did would be considered malpractice in the real world.
Did you observe Avery respond to this?
Yes, from what I saw, Avery was absolutely infuriated by Mr. Brackman's comments and stormed out of practice.
After Avery stormed out of practice, did you observe her do anything else?
Well, as she was leaving practice, I saw Avery grab a Sharpie pen on the way out of the room. Then Avery vandalized Mr. Brackman's Porsche by writing Worst Attorney Award across the hood.
After Avery vandalized Mr. Brackman's Porsche.
Character evidence.
One more time. I'm sorry, I missed it.
Improper character evidence pursuant to Rule 404B1.
Ms. Martin?
Your Honor, I will continue on to the next question.
All right.
Your Honor, permission to strike the past testimony on the vandalism out of the record.
I don't think she answered the question that was asked, so we're going to move on from there.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Fuentes. Thank you.
Ask another question.
How did Avery react to being kicked off the team for good?
Avery then texted me and asked me to convince Coach Brackman to let her back on the team.
I'd ask Ms. Fuentes to look at the exhibit book and look at Exhibit 14. Do you recognize Exhibit 14?
Yes, this is a screenshot of my cell phone text conversation between me and Avery.
And is this an accurate depiction of the screenshot that you took at the time?
Yes, it is.
Do you know who took the screenshot of the text conversation between you and Avery?
I took the screenshot.
And when did you take the screenshot?
Right after I met with Detective Markowitz.
Your Honor, at this time, I ask the court to admit Exhibit 14 into evidence.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. Objection to hearsay.
Response, Ms. Martin?
Your Honor, this is not hearsay. The original copy of these text messages was destroyed and not by the proponent of bad faith. So this is the only copy we have, and it is by Ms. Alexa Fuentes herself.
Response, Your Honor.
Response? Yes.
First off, Your Honor, that is not exactly an exception to hearsay or a response to hearsay. My objection is to the context within these text messages.
Ms. Martin?
Your Honor, these are the text messages Alex Fuentes received, and these are from what her personal knowledge Avery Becker said.
Response, Your Honor?
No. Overruled. I'm going to allow it.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you please explain to the jury what you and Avery are discussing in these texts?
Yes, Avery is asking me to talk to Coach Brackman about her having her back on the team.
Was there anything during the text conversation that made you concerned?
Yes, after I told Avery that I doubted anyone could change Coach Brackman's mind about having her back on the team, Avery became enraged. Avery texted that Coach was going to be really upset when he saw what Avery was going to do to his house.
And did Avery explain what she meant by that?
Yes, she said that she was going to wait until Coach Brackman was at work and then she was going to break in and trash the house.
You testified earlier that you took the screenshot of these text messages. Why'd you do that?
Well, right after Coach's death, I had to go down and talk to a police detective, and I told the detective about these text messages from Avery, but I'd forgotten my phone at home, so the detective asked me to send him a screenshot.
How do these screenshots show that they are from Avery?
At the top of the screenshot, it says Avery Becker as the contact.
I'd like to address one more topic at this time. Ms. Fuentes, do you know a person by the name of Blair Rollins?
Yes, he's another student at CHS, but I didn't know him very well. I'm not sure if I ever even had a class with Rollins.
Did you ever steal Avery's phone and give it to Blair?
Absolutely not. That's ridiculous. I hardly knew Blair and certainly would not have stolen Avery's phone to give it to Blair.
Ms. Fuentes, would you consider Avery Becker a rival of yours?
Certainly not. Before all this happened, Avery and I were friends and teammates. We pushed each other to be better. Avery and I liked each other very much, which is why Avery texted me to help get her back on the team.
Finally, Ms. Fuentes, did you have another conversation with Avery after they had been kicked off the mock trial team besides the text message exchange that you just testified about?
Yes, I saw Avery at the Fry Shack after Avery got kicked off the team. We had a great talk about how Avery should move forward and forget about the trial team. I specifically remember Avery thanking me for asking Mr. Brackman to let her back on the team.
No further questions, Your Honor. I pass this witness for cross-examination.
Thank you, counsel. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Whenever you're ready, counsel.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Fuentes.
Good afternoon.
Let's start by talking about your mock trial experience. You were on mock trial with Avery Becker.
Yes, I was.
You say you were both close friends.
Yes, we were.
You also believed that you were equal with Ms. Becker.
Yes.
You always came prepared to practice.
Yes, I like to be prepared.
But Ms. Becker usually came unprepared.
Yes, that is correct.
But Ms. Becker was the one who won awards for her performances.
Yes, like I said, she was very good at making things up on the fly. It was a real talent of hers.
Fuentes. Thank you. Later on, you asked Coach Brackman why he kept Avery on the team.
Yes, I did.
You didn't understand why he put up with her behavior or his, You
Yes.
didn't understand why, Now, moving on a bit, now let's talk about Avery's track record. Avery was demoted to B team.
Yes.
You believed she was rightfully demoted.
Yes, she didn't put in a lot of work on the team.
But Avery was later brought back to the A team.
Yes, she was, because her friend Taylor Perkins left.
After this, another incident occurred that caused her to be completely kicked off the team.
Yes, that is correct.
You believed that this was for the best.
Yes, I did.
You were also excited to take on larger roles now that your best friend was off the team, weren't you?
I mean, there was always that possibility.
Now let's talk about the texts you received from Avery Becker. Like you mentioned earlier, Avery was kicked off the mock trial team.
Yes.
After this, you received texts.
Yes, I did receive text from Avery.
And Avery was begging for help to get back on the team.
Yes.
So you went and made an impassioned plea to Mr. Brackman.
I did, because Avery was a good friend of mine and I thought I could at least try.
But Mr. Brackman wasn't backing down.
Exactly.
So you texted Avery Becker that Mr. Brackman wasn't backing down.
Yes.
You should have access to Exhibit 14, so please refer back to this. Now, starting at the 5th bubble down, Ms. Becker continues to ask for help to get back on the team.
Yes, that is correct.
After this response, nowhere do you say, "I will help," do you?
Well, I mean, I put in the effort to go talk to Mr. Brackman in the first place.
But within these texts, you don't say, "I will help," do you?
Objection asked and answered.
Response?
The witness did not answer my question, Your Honor.
Overruled. She may answer.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Nowhere within these texts do you say, "I will help," do you?
No, I don't.
You also don't say, "Mr. Brackman isn't backing down."
That is accurate. I do not say that.
Now let's talk about how you handled these text messages. When you first received them, you didn't give them to Mr. Brackman.
No, I did not.
You didn't show them to the proper authorities.
No, I didn't think that I really needed to. I thought that maybe I could work it out with Avery first.
Yes, so you didn't do anything with him.
No, I did not.
But when you received a call from the detective, you immediately offered them up as evidence.
Yes, I did.
So the detective called you down for an interview.
Yes.
You didn't bring your phone to this interview, did you?
My battery was kind of messed up and I left it at a charge and then I completely forgot.
So that's a yes. You didn't bring your phone to this interview.
Yes, I left it charging.
So Detective Markowitz said that screenshots would be fine.
Yes, exactly.
You didn't send those screenshots the second you got home after just getting home from a murder investigation, did you?
Well, like I said, I wanted to.
Ms. Fuentes, I know you would like to explain, but you'll have plenty of time for that on redirect. My question is, you didn't send those screenshots the second you got home after just being at a murder investigation, did you?
That's correct.
You didn't send those text messages the second you got back to your phone.
That is correct.
You sent those text messages the next day.
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect, Ms. Martin?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Fuentes, were you ever jealous of Avery?
No, I was never jealous of Avery. Sure, there were things that she could do that I couldn't, that maybe irked me, but I always thought that she was very talented at mock trial and I was never jealous of her.
And why didn't you bring your phone to the interview again?
Like I said earlier, my battery was kind of messed up with my phone and I was leaving it at a charge and I completely forgot it.
Finally, did you ever try and help Avery get back on the mock trial A team?
Yes, I did. I put in a lot of effort to talk to Mr. Brackman.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. This witness can step down. Does the prosecution wish to call another witness at this time?
Please, Your Honor, the prosecution requests to bring forward Detective Jordan Markowitz.
Detective Markowitz, if you can please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready, counsel.
Your Honor, can you hear me more clearly now?
Yeah, you're perfect now.
Okay,
Thanks.
fantastic. Good afternoon. Can you please state your name and occupation for the record?
My name is Jordan Markowitz. I'm a homicide detective for the Denver Police Department.
And how long have you been working for the Denver Police Department?
Been working there for roughly 13 years, working specifically as a homicide detective for the past 7.
And what have been your primary practices over those 13 years?
Over the past 13 years, I've primarily worked as a homicide detective, overseeing countless cases, and I've specialized training in cell phone data, and I've downloaded the contents and worked with hundreds of cell phones.
And have you had any education outside of the DPD in those areas of expertise?
Yes, I have a cell phone technology and forensic data recovery certification from the American Academy of Law Enforcement. I completed a 3-day training course and passed the certification test. In that certification course, I learned how to acquire and interpret cell tower data.
And how frequently do you use that training on an annual basis?
Oh, as a detective, I use this training constantly. It's invaluable to most of the cases I work on. I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of phones.
And finally, have you had any prior experience as an expert witness in other cases?
As a detective with extensive knowledge of cell phone technology, I've obtained and interpreted cell tower data in over 50 cases.
Your Honor, the people would respectfully request that the court qualify this witness as an expert in the field of cellular device analysis as well as homicide investigation.
Ms. Proctor, any objection?
No objection to the recognition of Detective Markowitz in those fields, Your Honor.
Okay,
Right.
Detective Markowitz.
Wait.
Oh, apologies, Your Honor.
He shall be so recognized.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Go ahead, counsel.
Detective Markowitz, who was the victim in the case we're discussing?
We were able to find an ID on the body that confirmed it was Mackenzie Brackman.
And had you ever seen or met Brackman prior to the crime?
Yeah, I've even worked with him before. He's a defense attorney.
Will that have any impact on your ability to analyze the evidence?
Oh, not at all. My job hinges on being objective.
Okay, let's delve into your understanding of the evidence. At what point were you assigned to investigate it?
Well, on March 6, 2020, a passing motorist reported what appeared to be someone who had passed out on the porch of 444 South Flower Street. This was confirmed to be the deceased Mackenzie Brackman, and a team of officers were called in. I responded at approximately 2:20 p.m. that same day.
Your Honor, can you give me 15 seconds? Something's happening in my house and I need to make sure that it's like
Okay.
literally 15 seconds. Thank you. Okay, apologies, Your Honor. Can you hear me clearly again?
Yes, you're fine, Mr. Walker. Everything
Yeah, sorry
okay?
about that.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, Detective Markowitz, can we delve into your understanding of the evidence? At what point were you assigned to investigate it?
I was assigned on Friday, March 6th, and I responded to the scene at approximately 2:20 p.m.
Okay, and can you tell us a little bit about the first things that really stuck out to you when you arrived at the scene?
Oh, it was not a pretty sight, I can tell you that. The front door was wide open, and the victim was lying face down in a pool of blood with a large stab wound in their back. They're also wearing a T-shirt which read "Keep calm and mock on." I guess they ran a mock trial program on the side.
Okay. Let's get into the digital portion of the evidence. Can you begin to explain how you used cell phone data to narrow the possible perpetrators?
Yeah, so I immediately reached out to the school to obtain the contact information for the students on the mock trial team. The first student I talked to actually clued me into some conflict within the team, which turned out to be the biggest break in the case thus far.
And who was that student?
Student by the name of Alex Fuentes.
Can you tell us a little bit about how Alex Fuentes helped your analysis?
I contacted Alex pretty soon after the event. They told me that a teammate had texted them something about a plan to vandalize Mackenzie Brackman's house.
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay? This is an out of
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
This is an out-of-court statement made by Ms. Fuentes, allegedly being offered for the truth of the matter asserted.
Mr. Walker?
Your Honor, we're about to get into Exhibit 14, which has previously been admitted, that will show the motive and the example of Alex Fuentes and their interaction.
Ms. Proctor?
I will object to hearsay on this statement now and as well as in Exhibit 14 if we are offering it for the truth of the matter asserted again.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Exhibit 14 was already admitted.
Exhibit 14, yes, Your Honor. But the hearsay now is separate from the texts.
All right, Mr. Walker, if you're just going into what's contained within that admitted document, you may proceed.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to direct your attention to what has previously been admitted as Exhibit 14. Detective Markowitz, are these the texts which Alex Fuentes brought to your attention?
Yes, these are the screenshots I received after I questioned Alex. According to the messages, the defendant asked Alex to help get them back on the team after being given the boot for vandalizing Mackenzie Brackman's car. The defendant then proceeds to threaten to break into the victim's house while they're at work and vandalize it.
And why were those text messages significant in regards to the case?
The information I received from the messages, as well as the interview with Alex and Alex's parents, pointed me towards Avery as a possible suspect, and that's what caused me to look into her cell phone records.
And what impact did that have on you?
In my expert opinion, the messages show a clear motive, as the attack happened during the middle of a workday. It's probable Avery broke into the house with the goal to vandalize it, but was interrupted by the victim.
Objection, Your Honor. Opinion on ultimate issue. Experts are not allowed to opine on the motive or mental state or motive of the defendant, and that is what Detective Markowitz is doing.
Mr. Walker?
We'll move on.
All right.
I move to strike testimony.
I'll strike the portion of the response before you interrupted.
Yes, Your Honor.
Detective Markowitz, can we get into what you found on Avery's telephone?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't actually have her cell phone, as the defendant claims they lost it. However, we do have her call detail records, or CDRs, and these can tell us some really interesting things.
What do they tell you?
They tell us that Avery received several calls and texts throughout the day of the murder, and I was able to use this information to place the phone at the scene of crime around the time of death.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that timing?
Yeah, so the records indicate that Becker was at home somewhere between 12:45 and 12:50 p.m. Later, Avery can be placed driving along Rock Creek Parkway at 12:55 p.m. The records indicate that they were at Brackman's house from 1:05 to 1:17 p.m. This can all be seen in Exhibits 15 and 16, which show the cell towers Avery's phone connected with on the probable route that they drove that day.
Your Honor, may I have permission for my co-counsel to share Exhibits 15 and 16 with opposing counsel, Detective Markowitz, as well as the jury?
Certainly.
Thank you. Okay. Detective Markowitz, do you recognize Exhibits 15 and 16?
Yes, these are the diagrams I put together that demonstrate the location of the cell towers and the positions of their antennas that Avery's phone connected with on the day of March 6th. Exhibit 16, also shows the most probable route from Avery's house to the property where the victim was discovered.
Do these diagrams accurately depict the cellular telephone data that you gathered?
Yes.
And did you create these exhibits?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I have permission to admit what have been marked as Exhibits 15 and 16 into evidence?
Any objection, Ms. Proctor?
No objection to 15 and 16, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, may I additionally have
Exhibits 15 and 16 shall be admitted.
Apologies. And may I additionally have permission to publish Exhibits 15 and 16 to the jury?
Certainly.
Thank you. Detective Markowitz, can you elaborate on cell tower connections?
Yeah, so cell phones are constantly reaching out to find cell towers, even when they're not in use. A cell phone will typically pair with the tower closest to them, but this is not always the case. For example, if one cell tower is very particularly busy, a cell phone might reach out to one farther away, but less busy.
Does that happen very frequently?
Oh, no, not at all. That's really, really rare.
And how are antennas used to further narrow the possible locations of the perpetrator?
In order to connect with cell phones, cell towers use 3-directional 120-degree antennas. Using the information about which antenna a cell phone connects to, we can precisely determine the location of a cell phone at any time. Unfortunately, the service providers don't keep this information. Instead, they only record it when a call or text is placed or received. But luckily, as stated before, the defendant received several calls and texts throughout the day that we were able to use to pinpoint the location on the day of the murder.
Okay. And how did cell tower records aid the case against Ms. Becker?
They show us that Becker was at Mackenzie Brackman's house around the time of the murder. Before the murder, the records also indicate that Avery was driving along the road, which would be the most probable route from Avery's house to the victim's.
And finally, Detective Markowitz, what have been your primary takeaways from analyzing this case?
Well, the clear and obvious takeaway is that the objective data gathered by the CDRs gives the straightforward story that Avery Becker's phone traveled from Avery's house to Mr. Brackman's house on the day of the murder. They spent a significant amount of time on the property around the time of death. And based on all of this objective evidence, it is highly likely that Avery Becker was in possession of their phone on the day of the murder. All of the evidence points towards her guilt.
Thank you for your attention today, Detective.
Objection, Your Honor. Opinion on ultimate issue. The central tenet of this case is whether or not Ms. Becker is guilty or is guilty. And that also includes a mental state, as the intent for criminal mischief is an element in second-degree burglary, which is required for first-degree murder. So Detective Markowitz cannot opine as to whether or not Ms. Becker is guilty.
Mr. Walker?
Yes, Your Honor. Detective Markowitz is merely talking on the basis of his expert opinion and what we've discussed in this proceeding.
Response, Your Honor?
Overruled. The answer will stand. Did you have any cross-examination, Ms. Proctor?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Detective Markowitz.
Good afternoon.
My name is Madeline Proctor. Let's start with your arrival on the scene. You were called to 444 South Flower Street on March 6th?
That's correct. I responded after paramedics and team of officers had already been there.
Right, and immediately you saw Coach Mackenzie Brackman lying dead on the floor.
Yeah, the front door was wide open, laying down in a pool of blood, stab wound in the back, yeah.
So immediately you start trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, right?
That's what I do as a detective.
Let's talk about how you did that, starting with the ring video footage. No suspect is identifiable from that footage.
Yeah, the person in the footage has a mask on, gloves, a hoodie. There's no discernible characteristics.
Exactly. Now let's talk about the cell tower data and why it's unreliable. Cell phones don't always connect to the nearest tower, do they?
It's extremely rare. Most of the time they connect to the nearest tower.
I understand you'd like to explain. That was not my question. My question was simply that cell phones do not always connect to the nearest tower. And it sounds like your answer is yes.
That is correct.
So cell tower data is not 100% accurate, is it?
Well, it's an objective piece of data that we can use. And the fact that there were 3 cell towers that she connected with makes it very accurate.
Detective Markowitz, I understand that you'd like to explain, but again, that was not my question. My question was that
I would ask that my witness is allowed to answer the questions.
Response, Your Honor?
Yes.
Detective Markowitz is simply not answering my question. He is explaining the accuracy, but he said nothing about whether or not it was 100% accurate. And in the previous question, he already demonstrated that he would not answer the question reliably.
Well, if you ask a yes or no question, you can confine him to a yes or no answer. But if you ask a question that requires a detailed answer, he's going to be able to answer it and uninterrupted. Okay.
Yes, Your Honor. Detective Markowitz, the cell tower data is not 100% accurate, right?
My apologies, but yeah, it's not 100% accurate.
So let's move on to how you got to Avery Becker in today's case. You talked to one student of Coach Brackman's mock trial team.
The first one I reached out to was Alex Fuentes.
Right, she was the first one. And she told you that another student had threatened to vandalize Coach Brackman's property.
That's what I heard, yes.
So you called Miss Becker and Miss Fuentes and her parents down for an interview.
That is correct.
And you were supposed to talk about those text messages, weren't you?
Yeah, I was, yes.
But she didn't bring her phone to the interview.
Yeah, it's a murder case. It's very stressful and it is highly unlikely, but so is, yeah.
Right, and you never asked her why she didn't bring her phone?
I mean, I just figured it was the stress of a murder case, you know, accidents happen.
That's a yes.
Yes.
So you just decided to take a screenshot instead.
I did ask for screenshots to be sent, yes.
But those screenshots weren't sent until the next day.
That's when I received them.
And you never downloaded the phone using the Cellbrite technology?
I didn't see it necessary. We had a bunch of other empirical data that corroborated and, you know, we didn't need to do that. It was.
Thank you, Detective Markowitz. You did download a cell phone in this case though, right?
Yeah, that is correct.
And you're an expert in cell phone data analysis?
Yes.
Right. And so these text messages motivated you to investigate only one suspect.
I had thought of other suspects before, but these text messages led me towards this one with hard evidence that supported it.
Thank you, Detective Markowitz. You never investigated another suspect.
I did not need to. All of the evidence pointed towards Becker.
All right, let's, can Mr. Powell please pull up what has previously been admitted as Exhibit 16? These are the cell tower records that you prepared, right?
That's correct.
And you'll notice on the cell tower map, there is a pin for Blair Rollins' house.
Yes.
Which is in the same cell tower arc as Miss Becker's house, isn't it?
That is correct.
So you claim that these records prove that Miss Becker left the house and went to Coach Brackman's house.
The suspect based on a disgruntled ex-client is, in my opinion, very unlikely. So I focused on Avery instead.
Detective Markowitz, that was not my question. My question was simply that, it's all right, but you claim that Miss Becker, that these records prove Miss Becker left from her house and made it to Coach Brackman's house.
That is the conclusion I came to based on this data as well as the other evidence we gathered.
So from this report alone, wouldn't it be possible that someone could have left from Blair Rollins' house and made it to Coach Brackman's house?
That's not how police investigations are done, though. We have to look at all of the evidence together.
Detective Markowitz, I'm not asking you about your investigation. I am simply asking you about this exhibit, which you are using as evidence of her location. And I'm asking you that from this exhibit, someone could have left from Blair Rollins' house and made it to Coach Brackman's house. Yes?
What you see in this exhibit is traveling on Rock Creek Parkway, which would have been the most probable route from Avery's house, not Blair's house.
Detective Markowitz, when they could have left under the same cell tower, couldn't they?
That is possible, using only that cell tower.
And you never spoke with Blair Rollins?
No.
Mr. Powell, you can take down Exhibit 16 now. In fact, you never even located Blair Rollins, did you?
I don't believe there's anything about that in my witness statement, but no.
Because Blair Rollins is missing.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions at this time.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect?
Please, just briefly. Detective Markowitz, is it probable that Avery Becker's telephone connected to a cell tower that wasn't the closest one to her proximity on March 6th?
Not at all. As seen in exhibits 15 and 16, there are 3 separate cell towers that her phone connected to, all in the region of where the crime took place. So it's very unlikely her phone was anywhere but in that region.
Okay. And finally, do you have any reason to believe that Alex Fuentes fabricated those text messages with Avery Becker?
No, not at all. All of the other evidence we've gathered has corroborated his story. His parents were there at the interview, and there's no reason to believe that they faked the text messages.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Sir, you may step down. Does the prosecution wish to call another witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The prosecution calls Kyle Kuzak to the stand.
Ms. Kuzak, if you can raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Whenever you're ready, counsel.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, my name is Kyle Kuzak.
And what do you do for a living, Ms. Kuzak?
I am a Colorado Bureau of Investigation certified crime scene reconstruction investigator, also known as a CSR, not to be confused with a police officer. I am in no way a police officer.
And where are you employed, Ms. Kuzak?
I am a civilian employee of the Denver Police Department.
What does your job entail?
Investigating complex crime scenes, which include, but are not limited to, home invasions, property crimes, and homicides. My job is to look at the facts and evidence and reconstruct a complete, unbiased picture of what happened.
What are your qualifications to be a crime scene reconstruction investigator?
I have 19 years of experience, and I've spent my last 3 years of my tenure with the city of Denver, along with my CSR certification.
Your Honor, I move to enter Ms. Kuzak as an expert witness in crime scene reconstruction and investigation.
Any objection, Mr. Powell?
No objection to the tendering of Kyle Kuzak, Your Honor.
All right. She shall be so qualified.
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you tell me about why you're here?
I am here to give an expert opinion on the event that occurred on March 6, 2020.
And what was
Hold on just a sec. Hold on. I'm sorry to interrupt. It's my understanding that we lost a panelist. Hold on a sec. And stop the time for everybody, okay? Who did we lose? Looks like we may have lost Ms. Forbes, Mr. Forbes.
I think it was Miss Forbes.
Is
but
the
I think you're
host
right.
on? Yeah. Is the host on?
I am here. I'm just waiting for her to get into the waiting room.
Okay. We'll hold off until you say that she's back on, okay? And then I'll ask her if she's missed anything.
Okay.
All right. Folks, if she's missed some, what we'll do is we'll do untimed until we get back to the question you were at. And then we'll start timing again, so it's fair to everybody. If she hasn't missed anything, we'll just turn on the time when you get started again, okay? Sound good? Everybody's nodding. And I thought I was going to make it. I haven't had any technical difficulties yet. Darn it. It's okay. Even when we've done live, we've had technical difficulties, right?
It's never once happened, Your Honor.
Never, ever. Shoot, I think I've done jury trials where I've had technical difficulties. While we're waiting, guys, I once did a trial, 12-person jury, felony case. Halfway through the trial, we'd already presented half of our evidence, and we realized that one of our jurors had walked off at the beginning of the case, and we didn't even know that they were gone. So we presented a whole trial with only 11 jurors and had to mistrial. So mistakes happen. Just remember to count your jurors if you're ever an attorney.
Guess that's one argument for bench trials.
Yeah, I guess. It kind of makes it easier on me, though, for the jury to make the decision. Then I'm never wrong. Looks like she's lost her Wi-Fi. We'll get it back up soon. So how many of you guys feel like you have more homework now than you did last year before the pandemic? Like 10 times as much? It's just crazy. My junior daughter has been trying to talk me into doing some of her homework for her because she's got so much. Looks like she might be back on. Ms. Forbes, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm back on. My wireless went out, but
That's
I'm
okay.
back.
Well, you live
I
in Florida. What
apologize.
do you expect? Did you miss anything?
Where are you?
We were on the third witness. I think we had just gotten started. About how many questions were you in, Counselor, Ms. Giseli?
We just finished the certification, so about 5 to 7 questions in.
Okay, so we had just gotten through the expert,
Okay, so I guess I got cut out in the middle of Miss Proctor's cross-examination of the second witness. So, but it sounds like I just missed the end of that and the very beginning of this. So I think we're okay.
You're okay with that?
Yeah, I think I mean.
Mr. Powell and Ms. Giseli, are you guys okay with that?
Yes, Your
Or
Honor.
do you want me to go back?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. All right. We'll go ahead and start. Go ahead and start the time, and we'll start with the question you were asking at the time that we broke.
What was this event that occurred?
It was an attempted burglary that resulted in the murder of Mr. Mackenzie Brackman.
What did you do to formulate your expert opinion about this event?
I visited the scene of the homicide and reviewed the police reports, photographs, and security videos. I formulated my expert opinion based off a strict process and 5 key steps.
What is your process?
I always assume that all the cases presented to me will be going to trial. This way, I can undoubtedly conduct a thorough and comprehensive investigation.
What about the 5 steps?
These 5 steps are recognition and documentation, collection of evidence, evaluation of evidence, hypothesis and testing, and reconstruction, which includes peer review.
How did all these steps help you?
They help me refine, organize, and understand the evidence, leading me to a conclusion about what happened on March 6th.
If you could please take a look at your notebook of exhibits. We will start with Exhibit 17. Did you construct Exhibit 17?
Yes.
Did you use this exhibit during your investigation?
Yes.
What is this exhibit?
It is something that I created during my investigation. I use notes that I took to compile spreadsheets and a timeline of events, which is this exhibit.
Your Honor, I move to admit Exhibit 17 into evidence.
Mr. Powell, any objection?
Your Honor, I object to hearsay.
Ms. Giseli?
Your Honor, the objection to hearsay is placed within the second page of the document where different interviews are contained. This page of the document is not being offered for the truth of the matter, rather just to explain my witnesses' steps and the notes they took.
Mr. Powell?
Your Honor, I do believe that this is being offered for the truth of the matter asserted. Any information contained in Exhibit 17 is being offered for the truth of the matter asserted.
One last time, Ms. Giseli.
For the second page, the objection on the second page of the different suspects' testimonies in their interviews, which is not what we are offering.
No, Ms. Giseli, the first page. What's your response to that?
Oh, apologies. Then the first page is for the objections of where the witnesses responded. We are not offering that for the truth of the matter, rather the other parts of the exhibit which do not contain hearsay.
I'm going to sustain the objection and not allow the document, although she can testify as to her notes with regard to her testimony.
Thank you, Your Honor. We will move on. Moving forward, apologies. How did your notes help you with the case?
They helped me stay organized and ensure that I looked at every piece of evidence to conduct the most probable chain of events that occurred.
Moving forward, we are going to talk about the evidence found at the crime scene. Let's start with Exhibits 9 and 18. Can you take a look at these exhibits? Have you seen these pictures before?
Yes.
Do these pictures accurately represent what you saw at the scene of the crime?
Yes.
Did you use these pictures in your investigation?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit Exhibits 9 and 18 into evidence.
Any objection?
Your Honor, I have no objection to Exhibit 18 or 19, or excuse me, Exhibit 9. I do have an objection for Exhibit 18, Your Honor, lack of foundation. We don't know when these scuff marks were made, nor do we know how they were made.
Ms. Giseli?
Your Honor, these scuff marks are a piece of evidence that my witness used in their investigation to help formulate their expert opinion. And she established a foundation that she visited the crime scene and reviewed pictures of all of these pieces of evidence.
Overruled, that can be admitted. Both 9 and, did you say 18?
Yes, Your Honor.
Can be admitted.
Permission to publish to the jury, Your Honor.
Certainly.
My co-counsel will now share what has been marked as Exhibits 9 and 18. Can you tell me what you see in these exhibits?
Yes, so Exhibit 9 shows a picture of a broken plate on the floor of the kitchen, and then Exhibit 18 shows scuff marks near the back door.
Why are these images important to the case?
These images were vital for determining the chain of events that happened. These pieces of evidence are what I used to determine that there was a struggle. The broken plate illustrated that there was a fight between Mr. Brackman and the intruder, and in this fight, they hit the kitchen table and knocked a plate to the ground. These scuff marks also indicated that there was a struggle.
If we could turn our attention to Exhibits 7 and 8, can you please take a look at these exhibits? Have you seen these images before?
Yes.
Are these pictures accurate representations of what you've seen previously?
Yes.
Did you use these pictures during your investigation?
Yes.
Your Honor, I move to admit Exhibits 7 and 8 into evidence.
No objection,
Any
Your Honor.
objection, Mr. Powell?
No.
7 and 8 shall be admitted.
Permission to publish to the jury, Your Honor?
Certainly.
My co-counsel will now share what has been marked as Exhibits 7 and 8. Can you tell me what you see in these exhibits?
Yes, so Exhibit 7 is a picture of an open knife drawer at the crime scene, and Exhibit 8 is a picture of the knife block on the counter with the largest knife missing.
How did these pieces of evidence help with your case?
This evidence is what showed me that Mr. Brackman had an awareness of his intruder. The open knife drawer shows that Mr. Brackman was aware of the intruder and opened the knife drawer and searched for a weapon. When he was not satisfied with the knives in the knife drawer, he reached for a larger knife in the knife block, as shown by there being a missing knife.
What did you determine happened after Mr. Brackman grabbed a knife?
Mr. Brackman confronted the intruder when he entered through the back door. The individual struggled over the knife, indicated by the scuff marks, which led to the kitchen, where they hit the table and the plate was knocked to the ground.
And what was the final step that happened in this chain of events?
After the intruder disarmed Mr. Brackman and gained control of the knife, Mr. Brackman and the intruder were in close proximity with each other in a bear hug-like position. The intruder held the knife with the blade facing towards them and reached over, stabbing Mr. Brackman in the upper back and shoulder area.
So when the assailant raised the knife, what direction was the blade facing?
Downwards.
Finally, Ms. Kuzak, what is your expert opinion about what happened?
In the end, the evidence demonstrated that this was clearly a planned burglary, which resulted in the murder of Mr. Mackenzie Brackman by the intruder. Mr. Brackman was alerted to the intruder's presence at the back of the house before the intruder entered. Unfortunately, in the ensuing struggle, the intruder took and gained control of the knife and murdered Mr. Brackman in his own home.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor. I pass this witness for cross-examination.
Thank you, counsel. Mr. Powell?
Yes, Your Honor.
Whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Ms. Kuzak. My name is Chalmers Powell.
Good afternoon.
Let's talk about your conclusions. You say that the physical evidence leads you to only one conclusion.
Yes, the evidence led me directly to what I just stated, and I have no doubts that what I said is incorrect.
Well, let's talk about that. Firstly, Mr. Brackman was alerted to the intruder by the front door, or coming to the front door by the Ring security camera.
Yes, Ring gives you notifications to your phone, which is what I believe happened.
Then Mr. Brackman went to the kitchen to grab a defensive weapon.
Yes.
And he first looked in the knife drawer.
Yes, the evidence shown and when I was reviewing the crime scene showed that he opened the knife drawer and was not satisfied with what he found and then proceeded to the knife block, which is where he took the larger knife.
Your Honor, if Miss Sayers could please pull up Exhibit 7.
Certainly.
So he opened this knife drawer,
Yes.
looked at all of these knives, and was not satisfied.
I cannot testify to the thoughts of Mr. Brackman. I can just testify to what the evidence indicates.
Ms. Kuzak, you just testified that he was not satisfied with his options.
That is what I believe happened, yes.
So you can testify to that.
Not to his exact thoughts, but that is what I believe happened, yes.
So he looked in this knife drawer and said, or thought that I'm not satisfied with those. Then he went to the knife block and grabbed the knife shown in Exhibit 5.
That is correct, yes.
That knife is 12 inches, roughly 12 inches long.
Yes, that is correct.
And then he confronted the intruder with the knife at the back door.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you, Ms. Varick. So let's be clear. All right. So you believe that Mr. Brackman was alerted to the intruder coming to the front door. You went to the kitchen, opened the knife drawer, looked at all of those knives, thought, I'm not satisfied with that, then went and grabbed another knife from the knife block.
Objection asked and answered.
Val?
Your Honor, my series of these questions have been asked, but the entire chain of events have not been asked.
Overruled. She may answer.
I'll ask that again, Ms. Kuzak. You believe that Mr. Brackman was alerted to the intruder by the ring alert, then went to the kitchen, opened the knife drawer, looked at all of these knives, not satisfied, and walked over, grabbed a knife from the knife block, and then confronted the intruder.
That is not only what I believe, but is also what the evidence indicates. That is correct, yes.
He did that instead of just locking the back door and calling 911.
That is correct, yes.
Let's talk about the scuff marks you mentioned on direct examination. You can't date when those scuff marks were made.
No, I cannot.
They could have been made 5 years ago.
I just reviewed the evidence at what is presented at the crime scene, and since those scuff marks were presented at the crime scene, they will be involved in my conclusion of what happened at the crime.
Really? So evidence that you don't know when it took place, that takes part in your expert opinion?
All the evidence that was presented to me, I will include in my theory of what happened. I will not take out any evidence based on how I don't know what the time is. It was a picture taken at the crime scene, which means it will be included in what I believe happened.
Right. Let's talk about the identity of the intruder. You can't identify who entered Mr. Brackman's home.
No, I cannot.
You can't identify who killed Mr. Brackman.
I can look at the evidence and look at all the other witnesses and believe what I believe happened, but there's no way that I can look at the video and determine it, no.
Let's talk about that ring video. You can't see the intruder's face.
No.
You can't see the intruder.
Your Honor. The attorney is attempting to ask my witness questions about evidence that has not yet been admitted.
Response, Mr. Powell?
Your Honor, this is an expert witness, and pursuant to Rule 705, 703, the expert can testify about evidence that she used in her expert opinion and without disclosing it.
Overruled. She can answer.
You can't see the face of the intruder.
No, I cannot.
You can't see the gender of the intruder.
No, I cannot.
You can't see the intruder's skin color.
No, I cannot.
And you can't even tell the hair color of the intruder.
No, I cannot.
The only thing you can conclude about who committed this crime is someone the same height and build as Miss Becker committed it,
It
right?
is not a consequence, it is not a coincidence that the height and build of the person in the video matches the defendant completely or exactly.
That was my question. The only thing you can conclude about who committed this crime is someone the same height and build as Miss Becker committed it.
It is not a coincidence. That is all I have to say.
It sounds like your answer is yes.
Yes, but it is not a coincidence.
Thank you, Ms. Kuzak. Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you, counsel. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Kuzak, could the intruder have been alerted by factors other than the Ring doorbells?
Yes.
What would these factors have been?
Well, they were at their house, so.
And apologies, were the Ring doorbells the only evidence you used to determine that someone broke into the house and murdered Mr. Brackman?
No, when I review a case and it is presented to me, I review every single piece of evidence and everything that I can to determine what I believed happened. And that is exactly what I did here. And all of the evidence exactly shows what I believe happened did happen.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Does the prosecution wish to call any further witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Do you rest?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Does the defense wish to call any witnesses at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Mr. Perkins to the stand.
Mr. Perkins, if you can raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much, sir. Whenever you're ready, counsel.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Perkins.
Good afternoon.
My name is Madeline Proctor. Please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name's Taylor Perkins. That's Perkins.
Where did you go to high school?
I went to high school at CHS, Colorado High School.
Did you know a Miss Avery Becker during your time there?
I did. She was one of my best friends in my whole time in high school. I mean, we had classes together. We hung out after school. I mean, we played video games all the time. We even did mock trial together.
Sounds like you two were pretty good friends. Tell us more about mock trial.
So, we had a pretty good mock trial team at CHS. I mean, I think we were the favorites to win state. I mean, just as long as arguments on the team weren't getting in the way.
What do you mean by arguments on the team?
Well, it was quite often that arguments happened on the team. I mean, especially between Coach Brackman and Avery.
Why so?
Well, Avery would show up to practice late, sometimes unprepared, and Coach hated that and really got on Avery. I mean, almost excessively.
Did those arguments ever escalate?
They did. There was one time where Coach got so heated, he demoted Avery to B team. It just wasn't fair.
Why wouldn't that be fair?
Avery was the best attorney on the team by far, and the best attorney deserves to be on the A team. That's just how it works.
So did you do anything to help out your friend?
I did. I stepped down from my spot on the A team so that the coach would have no choice but to take Avery back on A team where she belonged.
And did Coach Brackman take Miss Becker back onto A team?
Fortunately, he did, which was great.
What do you know about when she was taken back onto the team?
So I stepped down about a week before regionals, and so it was right about then that she was taken back on the A team.
All right, let's talk about the events of March 6th now. What were you doing that morning?
That morning, actually, Avery and I both had first period off. And when that happens, Avery always picks me up for school. We got to save gas money somehow.
So where did you and Miss Becker go?
So we were actually on our way to school, and I mentioned that Avery wasn't responding to my text. And that was when we realized she didn't have her phone. So, I mean, being seniors and senioritis kicking in, we decided to skip school that day and go look for her phone.
Where specifically did you look for her phone?
We retraced all the steps of the places that we were the day before. So we started by going to the mall.
What'd you do at the mall?
We looked in every shop that we went into the day before. I mean, even like some of the seats we sat on, like in between shops, we like checked in between the cushions, stuff like that. We looked everywhere.
And then where did you go after you went to the mall?
After we went to the mall, we went to the Fry Shack. That was where we had dinner the night before. And I think I recall that was the last place I remember seeing Avery's phone.
You said that that was the last place you remember seeing the phone. Did you see anyone you knew that night?
Actually, yes. I mean, besides Avery, I mean, we were having dinner, but a lot of the mock trial kids showed up. I specifically remember Alex Fuentes coming over and talking to us. He was trying to be like apologetic for Avery being kicked off the team, but came off in a very passive aggressive way.
I see. And then when you were searching for the phone at the Fry Shack the next night, did you see anyone you knew?
Yeah, actually, quite a few of the same people from mock trial showed up. It was weird.
Why was that weird?
Well, normally they would have been at practice at that time. I mean, it didn't make sense why they were at the Fry Shack at that time.
What is your understanding as to why they were not at practice?
Well, it's my understanding that Coach Brackman never showed up to practice that day. And you know the whole like 15 minutes and you can leave thing, apparently that's what they did.
So after you looked everywhere, where did you end up finding the phone?
Unfortunately, we never actually found the phone. I mean, that really sucks. Avery had to pay like $500 for a new phone? That really sucked. And we spent a whole day looking. It was wasted.
Let's talk about someone else now, Blair Rollins. How do you know him?
He was another student at CHS. You know, I saw him around campus. I think I had some classes with him, but that's how I knew him.
What do you know about his relationship with Coach Brackman?
Well, it's my understanding that Coach Brackman defended Blair Rollins' father in a murder trial. And unfortunately, I think Blair Rollins' father was sentenced to life in prison.
Did you hear what Ms. Fuentes said about not being friends with Mr. Rollins on direct?
Yeah, I did hear that.
What do you know about the relationship between the two of them?
Oh, it was my perception. They looked like great friends. I mean, they really did look like good friends.
Okay. Circling back to March 6th, was there ever a moment in time when you and Miss Becker were apart?
No, what? There was never a time where we were apart. I mean, okay, other than like the 2 minutes she was in the bathroom. I mean, I didn't follow her in because that would be weird. But she'd have to be like the Flash to go from the bathroom to Coach Brackman's house and back to the bathroom. Like, it wouldn't be possible.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you, counsel. Any cross-examination, Ms. Martin?
Yes, Your Honor. Hi, Mr. Perkins. My name is Avery,
Hello.
and I'll be asking you a few questions if that's okay. Mr. Perkins, you're best friends with Avery, correct?
She was one of my many best friends. You know, I'm really friendly. What can I say?
Yes, okay. So you wouldn't even be in mock trial without her.
You know, freshman year, she got me to like come out of my shell and like do something, like do an extracurricular, and I can't thank her enough for it.
Thank you. You saw Avery and Brackman butting heads frequently, didn't you?
Yeah, it kind of threw off the whole team sometimes.
And isn't it true that they fought so much that eventually Brackman demoted her?
Yeah, which really sucks. I mean, Avery deserved to be on the A team.
And she was really upset about this, correct?
Oh, you know, she was upset in the moment, but I talked to her about it and I said, oh, I'll step down so you can be back on the A team. And then it was all good.
Right. So you stepped down for Avery to be able to go back up to A team, correct?
So, I mean, she was taken off the A team about a month before regionals. And in that like 3 weeks between when she was taken off the A team and when I stepped down, the team just didn't feel the same. Like I felt like it needed Avery. So I stepped down in support of my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. But this shows you would do a lot for Avery, correct?
Well, what can I say? I think I'm a selfless person, but I mean, it's not like I would do anything for her.
Now, it was in your testimony that you said you found Coach Brackman and Avery's feud kind of funny, correct?
I mean, a lot of times it was just like oh, you look funny today, stuff like that. So it was kind of funny sometimes.
But Avery getting demoted from the A team doesn't seem little or funny, right?
No, there was some times where it wasn't funny at all. Like that time, that wasn't funny at all.
But you did say you found their feud funny, right?
Like I said, sometimes they would like me.
Ms. Proctor,
Objection asked and answered.
Ms. Martin,
Your Honor, I was just trying
Response?
to confirm. Your Honor, I was just trying to confirm the witness's stance on the matter because in his witness statement, he does say he finds their feud funny. Nowhere in his witness statement does it say he finds their feud funny sometimes. So I was trying to make sure we have a good answer.
Response, Your Honor.
overruled, he may answer.
Can you please ask the question again?
Go ahead.
Yes. You found Avery and Mr. Brackman's feud kind of funny, correct?
It was kind of funny. I mean, there was a lot of times where it wasn't funny, but kind of, sometimes.
And it was also in your testimony that you said you didn't care to get involved with their feud.
Objection, Your Honor. This is improper impeachment. Ms. Martin is using Mr. Perkins' witness statement and specific lines from it by saying in your testimony when he hasn't previously testified it. She's not giving him an opportunity to confirm the testimony.
Ms. Martin?
Sorry, Your Honor, I will move on and not ask questions like that again.
All right. Go ahead.
You did get involved in Mr. Brackman and Avery's feud, correct?
I wouldn't say I got involved in their feud. I mean, I wasn't like arguing with them or anything like that.
Well, you got involved by quitting the A team for Avery.
I mean, I wouldn't say that was for their feud. I mean, it was for the team, not for their feud.
Correct, but you got involved by trying to help Avery, right?
I wouldn't say that would be getting involved with their feud, but I mean, I did help Avery, you're right.
And you got more involved by trying to help Avery get back on the team, correct?
Wait, sorry, I thought I just said that. Yeah, I did help Avery get back on the team.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Perkins, why did you step down from the A team?
I just wanted to make sure that the team would be able to do the best it could. I mean, at regionals, Avery won Best Attorney Award and Best Closing Argument. I mean, it was awesome. And I think it showed that the team really did need Avery. I mean, everything worked out. It was great.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Perkins. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Does the defense wish to call any further witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense calls Blake Van Owen to the stand.
Mr. Van Owen, if you can raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
I do.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Van Owen. Please
Good afternoon.
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Blake Van Owen. That's spelled VANOWEN.
Professor, let's talk about your professional career. What do you do for a living?
Well, I am a private investigator currently. Before that, I was a part of the Aurora Police Department.
Can you tell us about your time with the Aurora Police Department?
I joined the Aurora Police Department for a 9-month period between 2005 and 2006. For the entirety of my professional career, I have always been dedicated and devoted to criminal justice. At first, I thought that the APD would be the best place for me.
Was it the best place for you?
No. Unfortunately, I noticed a lot of flawed investigations and malpractice in the APD. These police-approved practices were not achieving the means of criminal justice, and they needed reform. So I stepped down from the APD so that I could see justice happen.
How did you see justice happen?
Well, I went down my own path, and I obtained my master's degree in criminal justice in 2014. By 2015, I began lecturing students at the University of Colorado on social justice and police practices.
Other than teaching and being a private investigator, are you currently employed in the field of criminal justice?
Yes, well, I am a I've been a private investigator for several years now. I'd like to consider myself as a check on the power of police.
Professor, how many times have you ever testified in a court of law?
I've testified in over 100 trials. I regularly act as an expert in U.S. district and state courts.
In the cases that you were qualified as an expert, what did you testify? What were you recognized as?
Oh, I was recognized as an expert in crime scene reconstruction 8 times, an additional 5 times in cell tower analysis.
Your Honor, the defense requests the court to recognize Professor Van Owen as an expert in the field of police procedure, cell tower analysis, and crime scene reconstruction. Pursuant to Rule 702, his skill, knowledge, education, experience, and training have all been shown, and his testimony will assist the jury in understanding the evidence.
Any objection?
Permission to perform a voir dire, Your Honor.
Permission granted.
Thank you. You are here attempting to testify about crime scene reconstruction, correct?
That's correct. And any other expert analysis in this field, yes.
And you are not a certified CSR, correct?
No, but once again, I do have experience in that field.
You have no experience doing crime scene reconstruction for a profession, correct?
I have been recognized as an expert in crime scene reconstruction in court many times. But no, it is not my main profession.
Let me rephrase. I'm not asking if you've testified in this. I'm asking how many times you've officially looked at a crime scene and officially reconstructed what happened at that crime scene for an occupation.
I do not currently work for the police department anymore, so no, I do not look at the crime scene. I review the crime scene from their evidence.
You have no degree in crime scene reconstruction, right?
I have a master's degree in criminal justice. I believe crime scene reconstruction does fit under that.
But crime scene reconstruction, you do not have any educational degree in that field, correct?
I just said yes, crime scene reconstruction fits under criminal justice. So I do have a master's degree in criminal justice.
You have no formal training in crime scene reconstruction, right?
Yes, I do. When I was with the Aurora Police Department, I went through a course to be a part of the department, which includes training in crime scene reconstruction.
Your Honor, based on the witnesses' responses and admission that they are not a certified crime scene reconstruction investigator and have no training in that field, I object to the qualifications of Mr. Van Owen as an expert witness in crime scene reconstruction.
Mr. Powell?
Your Honor, pursuant to Rule 702, Mr. Van Owen's experience, skill, knowledge, education, or training have been shown in crime scene reconstruction. He has testified, and courts have recognized him over 5 times in crime scene reconstruction, and he has received a master's degree in criminal justice, which he testified included some training in crime scene reconstruction. Furthermore, his time with the Aurora Police Department served him experience and training with crime scene reconstruction, Your Honor.
I will allow him to be qualified as an expert. You can go ahead and proceed with your questions.
Professor Van Owen, what have you done in preparation for today's case?
For today's case, I reviewed all of the exhibits and depositions. I've reviewed Kyle Kuzak's crime scene reconstruction, along with Detective Markowitz's cell tower analysis. I've also conducted my own investigations in fields that I felt necessary.
Let's start with Mr. Markowitz's report. What problems do you have with his analysis?
Frankly, Mr. Powell, Detective Markowitz, in today's case, suffers from confirmation bias.
What is confirmation bias?
It is the tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation of one's existing beliefs. For example, trying to fit puzzle pieces in the incorrect puzzle.
How does Detective Markowitz fall victim to this?
Detective Markowitz developed a preconceived notion that Miss Becker was the only suspect in today's case. He only found evidence that would implicate Mr. Becker, while ignoring evidence that would exculpate them.
Objection, speculation.
Mr. Powell?
Your Honor, this is not speculation. Professor Van Owen has been recognized by this court as an expert in police procedure, and that his opinion on on Detective Markowitz's problems with his investigation is not speculation.
Overruled. You may answer.
I'll ask that again, Detective Professor Van Owen. What are some examples of Detective Markowitz's confirmation bias?
One, you have Detective Markowitz's assumptions on the cell tower data. Two, the validity of the text message screenshots. And three, Detective Markowitz's lack of an investigation on Blair Rollins.
Let's start with the cell tower analysis. How is this confirmation bias?
Before Detective Markowitz pulled any of the data from his cell tower data, he had his suspect, and that suspect was Miss Becker. Instead of following the data to their natural conclusions, Detective Markowitz tried to force the data to fit his story, just like a puzzle piece.
Let's talk about the text messages. How is that an example of confirmation bias?
You see, there are two aspects of confirmation bias within Detective Markowitz's analysis of the text message screenshots. Detective Markowitz fails on both identifying who sent the messages and from where they were sent.
Why don't we know who sent them or where they were sent from?
The name on an iPhone can be easily manipulated. Detective Markowitz saw that the name said Avery Becker and assumed that the messages were from Avery Becker. Furthermore, Detective Markowitz never obtained the phone and downloaded the data from the phone, and that's the only way we can identify from where the messages were sent. Instead, Detective Markowitz took these messages for face value and used that to confirm his existing beliefs.
Let's talk about Detective Markowitz's investigation of Blair Rollins. First, who is Blair Rollins?
Blair Rollins was a student at Colorado High School.
How is he relevant to this case?
Blair Rollins' father, Jonathan Rollins, was convicted of first-degree murder. The Rollins family depended upon Mr. Brackman to defend Jonathan Rollins in court. Unfortunately, Jonathan was sentenced to life in prison. After this, Jonathan actually yelled out a threat towards Mr. Brackman. He said, "I'm going to get you back, Brackman, if it's the last thing I do."
Objection, hearsay.
Mr. Powell?
Your Honor, this is an exception to hearsay pursuant to Rule 803.2, an excited utterance. Your Honor, Jonathan Rollins was just sentenced to life in prison, and he's describing his thoughts on that. A startling event.
Overruled. We'll allow the answer.
Professor Van Owen, what did Jonathan Rollins say to Mr. Brackman?
Jonathan Rollins said, "I'm going to get you back, Brackman, if it's the last thing I do."
Now, what else is important to know about Blair Rollins?
Blair Rollins was at this court proceeding when this happened. And it's also important to know that Blair Rollins was missing from school on the day of the murder.
Now that we know who Blair Rollins is, how is Detective Markowitz's lack of investigation on him an example of confirmation bias?
When you look at Detective Markowitz's investigation, they developed their suspect because they claimed that they had a motive, that they were missing from school on the day of the murder, that their house was in the same cell tower arc, and that they made a threat. Detective Markowitz takes all of these facts and forced it to fit his story. Miss Martin claimed earlier that Avery Becker had a means, opportunity, and motive. But Blair Rollins truly has the means, opportunity, and motive. Yet Detective Markowitz did not investigate them at all. This is clearly a failed investigation, and this is clearly confirmation bias.
Thank you, Professor. Your Honor, I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you, counsel. Ms. Gisele, did you have any cross-examination at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Hello, Mr. Van Owens. I just want to confirm that earlier you testified that crime scene reconstruction was a part of your degree in criminal justice as long as it being part of your training for the Aurora Police Department, correct?
That's correct.
Now, you did prepare an affidavit for today, correct?
I did, yes.
And you are aware that you could change anything, you could update this affidavit up until any point at this time?
That is correct.
I would now like to direct you to look through your affidavit for me.
Sure thing.
Can you please tell me where in this affidavit you said that crime scene reconstruction was A, a part of your criminal justice degree, and B, a part of your training with the Aurora Police Department?
Oh, I didn't. It's common knowledge that crime scene reconstruction fits under criminal justice, and you get training in crime scene reconstruction when you are with the police who investigate crime scenes.
But this is not part of your witness statement, correct?
No, as I said, it's common knowledge.
Okay, moving on. Apologies. You are here to provide your expert opinion on this case, correct?
That is correct.
For the defense, right?
Yes.
And you've only ever worked for the defense, yes?
The police have experts that are provided to them by the government. The defense do not. That's why I'm here. The defense have to pay for experts, and that's my job.
You work for the defense because you feel that you need to check the power of the police.
I'd like to consider myself as a check on the power of police, yes.
And you were a police officer, correct?
Yes, I was.
And isn't it true that you were sued for using excessive force?
That's correct. I can't speak to the details. However, it's due to the way in which police practices are performed. As I mentioned earlier, I became disillusioned with police work, and that's why I stepped down in the first place.
And you did leave the police force after this lawsuit.
Yes, as I said.
You make money testifying in different court cases every year, right?
Just like you make money as an attorney in court cases, yes.
You make around $100,000 per year, correct?
That's correct.
And you are making money on this case, right?
Again, just like you are, ma'am.
You've made up about $7,000 up to this point?
Yes.
But after this trial, you will make a couple $1,000s more.
Again, yes.
Defense attorneys hire you with the expectation that you will be skeptical of the police, correct?
Defense attorneys hired me to perform an investigation on the police and find the holes in their investigation. They hired me to serve justice.
You would not be hired if you agreed with the police, would you?
I would be hired by the police if I agreed with the police. The defense wouldn't hire me if I disagreed with them.
You would not be here testifying, making money if you came to the same conclusions as the police during this investigation, right?
No, the defense would not hire me to disagree with them once again.
Perfect. Let's move on to the knife. You believe that Mr. Brackman was stabbed while sitting down.
That's correct.
Meaning the knife was held with the blade facing outwards, correct?
Yes.
Yet,
the autopsy reports suggest this.
Yet you stated that the most common way to hold a knife is with the blade facing towards you, correct?
I admit that it is uncommon to hold the blade the other way, yes.
Let's talk about the evidence now. You reviewed all of the evidence and said that there were no signs of a struggle, correct?
Yes, I did.
But there was a broken plate on the floor, right?
The broken plate can be due to a lot of things. For example, if the intruder were to stab Mr. Brackman, then proceed out the house running and knock over the plate, that's not a cause, that's not a struggle.
Yes. There was also an open knife drawer?
That's correct. Again,
Along
not
with a missing
not
knife from
indicative
the
of a
knife
struggle.
block? I'll
Sorry,
repeat
can you ask that again?
Along with a missing knife from the knife block?
Yes.
You believe that Mr. Brackman was unaware of his intruder, correct?
That is correct.
So let's go through the sequence of events in order for this to be true. The intruder would have had to not had Ring doorbell alerts to his phone, correct?
That's correct. We could have figured this out if Detective Markowitz downloaded the Ring alert app systems.
I'm not here
and
crossing
check for
you
that.
about what Detective Markowitz did wrong. I'm simply here crossing you about your opinion. I'll
Okay.
go to my next question. You would have, the intruder, apologies. Mr. Brackman would have not
That's
heard
okay.
the intruder trying the front door to see if it's locked, right?
Yes.
Not heard the intruder go through the side gate and come in the back door, right?
Yes, the side gate is outside of the house.
He would
There's a
have
wall
also
in between.
had to have been unaware of the intruder walking from the back door to the chair you theorize Mr. Brackman was sitting in when he was stabbed, correct?
That's correct.
Isn't it true that this chain of events would not explain how the crime scene was found? It does not account for several pieces of evidence found at the crime scene, right?
Look, this this chain of events is certainly a possibility. And my problem is that Detective Markowitz didn't investigate this theory at all.
I'm not asking you about Detective Markowitz. I'm asking you about the conclusions you came to. You did
Yeah,
not.
the conclusions that I came to were that this investigation was failed. I'm explaining how it was failed because Detective Markowitz didn't investigate this theory at all due to confirmation bias.
You prepared a report about what you thought happened, correct?
That's correct.
And in this report, you did not include the broken plate, right?
No, I did not.
You did not include the open knife drawer.
No, as I said, it's not a sign of a struggle. Sorry.
I'm not insinuating it's a sign of a struggle. I'm just asking if you included this piece of evidence in your report, and you did not, correct?
No, I did not.
You also did not include the missing knife from the knife block in your report, correct?
No, I did not.
Meaning there were several pieces of evidence you excluded when creating your report, correct?
Yes, I felt this evidence wasn't relevant to the final conclusions of my report.
Okay. You stated to never assume when investigating, yet you make a lot of assumptions during this case. You testified that the intruder was small, right?
Your Honor, counsel is testifying.
Response, Ms. Gisele?
No response, Your Honor.
Move on to your next question.
You stated that the intruder was small, right?
The build and size of the intruder is similar to Blair Rollins and Avery Becker, which is a small build and size.
Yes, and you stated this because of the Ring doorbells, yet the Ring doorbells had no objective dimensions, correct?
No, but the picture in the yearbooks do.
And so let me get this if you're correct. You're saying that you reviewed the pictures in the yearbooks to figure out how tall they were?
To figure out how tall Blair Rollins and Avery Becker were.
And then
if you're speaking to the intruder in the Ring video, no, the Ring video does not have dimensions.
Perfect. You testified that Brackman was sitting down when he was stabbed, right?
That's correct. The angle in which the knife went into his back suggests this.
But there was no blood, no scuff marks, or evidence to corroborate this story, correct?
Look, counsel, it's not my job to prove my theories correct. My job was to investigate Detective Markowitz's theories, and it's a failed investigation. I additionally added other theories that Detective Markowitz did not investigate.
You testified that Brackman did not notice the intruder, right?
I did, yes.
Again, this was something you assumed. There was no concrete evidence to determine that Mr. Brackman was unaware of the intruder, correct?
Just like there's no concrete evidence to determine that Avery Becker was the suspect in today's case, yet Detective Markowitz still went through with that.
You stated that the knife was brought by the intruder, correct?
That's correct.
Meaning there is no way to, apologies. It is not illegal to own a knife of a different brand, correct?
I'm sorry, it's not illegal to own it? No, it's not.
Meaning there is no way to concretely prove that the intruder brought the knife, right?
No, there's not. Again, we could have, if Detective Markowitz, maybe, never mind. Yeah, there is no way, no.
Finally, you stated that Blair Rollins had a motive to murder Mr. Brackman, correct?
That's correct, a strong motive. Their father was ripped away from them and sentenced to life.
You testified this because she spoke at her father's hearings, correct?
Because she was there to hear his father threaten Mr. Brackman.
This is a fact that can only be corroborated by yourself. You failed to provide the audio recording of Blair speaking at her father's hearing to prove that she was there, correct?
No, I did not get the audio recording.
Objection. Counsel is testifying once again.
Kelly?
Your Honor, according to apologies, according to Rule 611B, I can cross the witness based on anything that was I can inquire about any relevant facts or matters contained in the witness's statement.
Overruled. You may answer.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
You can only corroborate that Blair Rollins was at her father's hearing by herself because you failed to provide an audio recording of Blair being there, correct?
If you go back to the actual court records, You will see that Blair Rollins spoke there. However, no, I did not provide this.
And we do not
Because
have
this case is, at the end of the day, about Avery Becker. If there was a separate trial about Blair Rollins, which there should be, I would provide that.
And I just want to clarify that we do not have these court records to prove that Blair was there here today at this trial, correct?
No, we do not.
Thank you. No further questions.
Mr. Powell, any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Professor Van Owen, let's talk about your conclusions. What are you here to conclude about?
I'm here to analyze Detective Markowitz's and Kyle Kuzak's investigations. I'm not here to provide any of my own conclusions. However, I did additionally.
There seems to be some confusion about the burden. Do you have to prove anything, Professor Van Owen?
No, I do not.
Let's talk about how you only testify for the defense. Has any prosecutor attempted to hire you for your investigation?
No, and the reason why is because they have their experts that are provided to them for free by the government. The defense do not.
Let's talk about the ring videos and the alerts from the ring videos. What evidence is there that Mr. Brackman was alerted to the intruder, Mr. Kuzak, or Mr. Van Owen?
Oh, sorry, can you ask that again?
What evidence is there of Mr. Brackman being alerted to the ring video, or to the intruder entering or approaching the front door?
Oh, the evidence, the ring notification, the intruder walking up to the door, opening the door and walking around the house.
Is there any evidence that Mr. Brackman was alerted to that?
Oh, no, there's no concrete evidence that proves Mr. Brackman was alerted to that.
Professor Van Owen, how did you get the build and height of the person in the video?
Through the Ring video app. That's how and through school picture yearbooks. So.
Did Detective Markowitz and Kyle Kuzak assert that the person in the Ring video was the same height and build?
Yes, they did.
And finally, Professor, what motive did Blair Rollins have to commit this murder?
Blair Rollins' motive was that his father was ripped away from him and put in jail for life, which is a far stronger motive than Avery Becker simply being kicked off the mock trial team.
Thank you, Professor. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Thank you, counsel. Sir, you're excused. Does the defense have any other witnesses they wish to call at this time?
Yes, Your Honor, we call Miss Avery Becker to the stand.
Mr. Becker, or Ms. Becker, if you can raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Whenever you're ready, counsel.
Good afternoon, Ms. Becker. My name is Ashlyn Bierick. Please introduce yourself to the jury.
Hi, I'm Avery Becker. That's Becker.
Let's start by talking about your relationship with Coach Brackman. Many witnesses have testified to the relationship you had with him. Why was it so strained?
We were just very different. We had different styles. I am a very natural kind of go with the flow type of person. He's just very scripted.
Was it hard to have a meaningful relationship with him?
I think it's hard to have a relationship in general with anyone who just doesn't respect your philosophies or just has a different point of view on them.
Now, we've heard a lot about events that added to your struggle with Mr. Brackman. Let's hear your side of the story. When you were demoted to B team, how did you react?
Well, at first I was kind of bummed, but I just kind of did my thing. And actually, Taylor quit the A team so I could be reinstated. He's really one of the real ones.
How did the regional tournament go once you were back on the team?
It actually went really well. I won the best attorney award and the best closer. I was just so pumped, especially going into state. I thought I'd finally proven myself and showed that I was worthy to be on the A team, but coach thought otherwise.
What do you mean by that?
When I got back to the first practice after the regional tournament, when coach was debriefing us, he just kind of started going on about me, how I didn't deserve my awards and that I only won them because of luck and my good looks.
How did you respond to this?
I was upset and I stormed out of practice.
Did you try to get back on the team at all?
I tried apologizing to him. I texted him and actually went to his office one day. He just wouldn't see me.
How did this make you feel?
Sad. I was devastated. I just wanted to say sorry and make things better. And now that he's gone, I just never will.
That must have been hard on you. I'm sorry, but we must move on. We've heard a lot about your cell phone today. Let's talk more about that. You should have access to Exhibit 14, so please refer back to this.
I do.
Do you know what these are?
These are the text messages that the prosecution claims I sent, but I've never seen these before in my life.
Did you send these text messages?
No, I couldn't have. I lost my phone. It was physically impossible for me to send these messages.
Where was the last place you had your phone?
I think it was the Fry Shack. Yeah, it was the Fry Shack. Me and Taylor were playing Among Us. Really fun game. Highly recommend. But I needed to use the restroom, and I think I must have forgot it on a table or something.
Who else was there with you guys?
The mock trial team showed up, and I remember seeing Alex Fuentes.
And when did you realize you had lost your phone?
The next day when I woke up.
Did you do anything to look for it?
Well, me and Taylor actually skipped school the next day, and we were at the mall the entire time looking for it everywhere.
When did this search occur?
It was actually March 6th, and I lost the phone on March 5th.
Why do you remember this day?
Because that was the day Coach died.
Shifting gears, let's talk about Blair Rowlands and Alex Fuentes. Were you friends with Miss Fuentes or Miss Fuentes?
No, she thought I was her biggest competition. She was constantly trying to get my spots, and she wanted the awards that I would obtain, and we just weren't friends.
Would you ever reach out to her for help?
No, if I needed someone's help, I'd go to Taylor. Easy.
Now, do you know who Blair Rowlands is?
I don't really know the kid too well. Like, I don't know him, but I know of him, if you understand what I mean. All I know is that he just really hated Coach because Coach represented his dad in a murder trial, and then Blair's dad got convicted and sentenced to life.
Were Alex Fuentes and Blair Rowlands friends?
Yeah, from what it seemed like they were good friends.
I see. Now, Miss Becker, you've been here through the whole trial, and you've heard many different things said by many different people. I'm going to ask you the one question that everyone wants to know. Did you kill Coach Brackman?
No. I couldn't kill anyone.
And why should we believe you?
It's no secret that Ian Coach didn't get along, especially after he kicked me off the team, but to go to his house, to break in, to stab him? No, that's not me.
Thank you, Ms. Becker. I know this has been hard to testify today.
Thank you, counsel. Any cross-examination?
Please, Your Honor.
Whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Hi, Avery. My name is Jack, and I'm going to ask you a few questions if that's all right.
Hi.
So you testified that you were really good at mock trial, correct?
I was. I actually won a couple of awards, the best closer and the best attorney award.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And that even though Coach Brackman knew you were the best attorney, he always kind of criticized your work.
I definitely wasn't one of his favorites. I just think we were very different and he just didn't appreciate me.
Yeah. It made you pretty angry that he rewrote your closings, didn't it?
It did. I thought I did really well.
And you got pretty frustrated that he always made you stick to the script, right?
I just think since we're so different, it's not very natural. And it's just, yeah, it was.
Okay, let's go back to the regional tournament because you won the best attorney award, but even though you won that award, Coach Brackman told you that you didn't do anything to deserve it, right?
He said I won it because of luck and my good looks.
And you were super excited for the state tournament, correct?
I was really pumped. I thought we were actually going to win.
And that made you really angry that Coach Brackman would just take that away from you.
Yeah, it was definitely very frustrating. It's just, I thought I really proved myself. I thought he finally would think I deserved my spot on A.
Okay. And that made you so angry that you stormed out of practice and wrote worst attorney award.
Objection, Your Honor, to improper character evidence under Rule 404B1. I previously made this objection and it was sustained.
Mr. Walker.
Moving on, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead.
And subsequently, Coach Brackman kicked you off the team, correct?
He did kick me off the team after I stormed out of practice. Yeah, he
and
did.
And that made you even more angry.
Yeah, and he also called my friend a loser in the process.
Okay. Let's move on to March 6th, the day that Coach Brackman was killed. You stated that you were with your friend Taylor, correct?
I was. We were looking for my phone at the mall. I bet security cameras would show that.
Okay, but based on your testimony, there's nobody besides Taylor who was with you on that day, correct?
Well, I had Taylor. I didn't need a 20-person group to go help me find my phone. It wasn't
okay. But you and Taylor, I think you said best buds, correct?
Yeah, he's my best friend. He's, one of the real ones. My best bro.
In fact, you were such good friends that Taylor joined mock trial because of you, then quit A-team because of you, and now has gone and skipped school because of you, right?
Your Honor, compound question.
Counsel, response?
I can break that up into numerous individual questions if need be.
Go ahead.
So Taylor did join mock trial because of you, correct?
I thought it was a good idea for us to do it together so we could hang out and play on our phones a bit longer.
Okay. In the future, if you could just reply with a yes or no in the matter of time, that would be great. Thank you. And then subsequently, Taylor quit A-team because of you.
Yeah, he just didn't like it anymore, I guess.
Okay. And then also ended up skipping school with you to find your phone.
We were both in college already. So yeah, he helped me. He's really great.
Okay. Let's move to Exhibit 14, which has previously been admitted, Your Honor. Can you look at this exhibit, Avery?
I have it in front of me. I don't know if you want to share it as well.
I'd rather have you just read a couple bits of it, if that's okay. So can you please read the first text message starting with, I'm sure?
Actually, could you hold on a second? I'm sorry, my laptop is not loading, so I need to pull it up. It actually might be better if you would share. I am sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. I can go find it. If the clock could be paused momentarily as we locate the evidence. Thank you, Your Honor.
Opposing counsel would like me to share it. I have it pulled up right now.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that works. Thank you.
Sorry about that. It's just not loading.
No, it's all good.
Go ahead and restart the time. Go ahead.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Can you please read the first text message starting with I'm sure?
Yeah, but I never sent these messages, so I don't know why you want me to read them exactly, but I guess you want me, I don't know if you want me just to prove my reading skills, but all right.
According to previous testimony from Alex Fuentes, you did allegedly send these. Regardless, I'd just like you to read them.
I didn't send these. It was impossible for me to send these. Like, my phone's been gone since March 5th. I had to buy a new one.
Okay, regardless, could you just read the text messages?
I'm sure you're aware that I got kicked off the team. I'm pretty desperate to get back on. If there's any way you would be willing to talk to Coach Brackman about having me back.
And then additionally, the text message starting with, well, if he's upset.
I never sent that though.
Same case. If you could just read them, please.
Okay. Well, if he's still upset about his car, then he's going to be really upset when he sees what I do to his house.
And finally, can you read the last text message you sent?
That'll show.
Okay, thank you. And you stated in your direct examination that you couldn't have sent these texts because you lost your phone, as you previously said.
Which I really did. It was absolutely impossible for me. I had to spend a lot of money to get a new phone, sadly.
Okay, but Exhibit 14 doesn't show a date
Your
when
Honor.
those text messages were. Pardon?
Yes. Counsel?
That is time.
All right. All right. Ms. Firasek? Next time when it's time, please just write time.
Your Honor, I still have 20 seconds for the cross-examination.
I think it has to do with when we stopped to allow for the technical difficulties for the exhibit. Counsel, I'll allow you to ask one, finish your question and the answer, and then we'll, that'll be it. Okay?
Okay. So finally, Avery, from your mock trial experience, you said that you're really good at spinning a yard, aren't you?
Yeah, I was really good with my closing arguments. Those rebuttals were amazing, I have to admit.
Okay. And so there's no way for, oh,
One question, one answer. Let's not go over.
apologies.
Ms. Viracek, how do you pronounce that name? Viracek?
Virick.
Virick, I'm sorry. Ms. Virick,
Yes, ma'am.
any cross?
Redirect?
Oh, redirect, excuse me, sorry.
Yes, Your Honor. Why do you know you didn't send these text messages?
One, I would never text Alex Fuentes. I would go to Taylor if I ever needed anything. Also, I lost my phone. It's physically impossible for me to send these messages. I had to get a new one and spend a lot of money on it.
Also, on direct, Mr. Walker mentioned your skills as a witness. Can you elaborate on this?
Yeah, I was really good with knowing the facts in the case, and the jury always knew that I knew everything that was going on.
Does any part of this skill tie back to you being a witness in today's case?
No, it's just me being able to read a case, I would guess.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Ma'am, you may step down. Does the defense have any further witnesses they wish to call?
No, Your Honor, the defense rests.
Thank you. Does the prosecution rest?
Yes, Your Honor, we would like to provide a closing statement, though.
All right. You may go ahead and provide a closing statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, thank you. The means, the opportunity, and the motive. Members of the jury, the evidence presented in this case showed that Avery Becker had to get even. She went so far as to say that she would get back at Brackman if it was the last thing she did. Coach Brackman took away her hobby and her passion. She was angry. So angry that she went to Coach Brackman's house and not only broke into it, but killed Coach Brackman. There shouldn't be a doubt in any of your minds that Avery Becker committed this crime. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence today to prove that Miss Becker was committed burglary and murder. Detective Markowitz, a member of the Denver Police Department for over a decade, testified that Miss Becker was recorded driving directly from her house to the Brackman household at exactly the time of the crime. Avery Becker's only alibi is her best friend, Taylor Perkins. Taylor previously made numerous decisions that would have significant impacts on his life, including skipping school, joining mock trial, and quitting mock trial, just so that he could help Avery. Miss Becker then got rid of her phone in hopes of destroying all possible evidence. Additionally, thanks to Alex Fuentes, we have text messages from Avery Becker on the day of the murder, after she had supposedly lost her phone. Avery specifically said in those text messages that she would go to Brackman's household and trash it, asking for Alex's help. Alex additionally testified that Avery hated Coach Brackman for kicking him off the team. The defense has tried to pin the crime on Blair Rollins, but what evidence is there against Blair? The answer is none. Blake Van Owen, an individual who has no education in crime scene reconstruction specifically, nor any sort of education that qualifies him to testify about the actions that occurred at the crime scene, and who additionally makes a living from his reputation to consistently belittle the police department, stated that he thought Avery was incapable of committing this crime due to speculative factors, and that Rollins's motive was that she had previously been shown with an angry disposition regarding the results of her father's case. There's no evidence of that whatsoever. He additionally wants to push that our case is built off of confirmation bias. Yet, how can one consider repetitive evidence directly pointing to one individual, as well as the case originally being built on evidence, by no means an intuition by Detective Markowitz confirmation bias? The defense has tried to strip the credibility of our case numerous times by saying that there was a rush to build a case, yet shown by Kyle Kuzak, who spent countless hours reconstructing the scene for us to further analyze, as well as Detective Markowitz, who took the time to process all of the CDRs from Avery Becker's phone on the day of the murder. It's impossible to make such an accusation. The prosecution must show beyond a reasonable doubt that Avery Becker is guilty of first-degree murder and second-degree burglary. We request that the jury find Avery Becker guilty on both counts and not let Avery Becker improvise her way out of another dire situation. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Does the defense wish to make a closing argument at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Whenever you're ready, counsel.
Justice doesn't come in a puzzle box with a picture on top. It's Friday, March 6th. Detective Markowitz arrives at Coach Brackman's house, and immediately he finds Coach Brackman lying dead on the floor. So he starts to try and put the pieces of the puzzle together. A dead body, a bloody knife, and ring security footage. But what he does not have is any fingerprints, or any DNA, or any suspects, or perhaps a picture of the completed puzzle that he wants to create. So like a child who's trying to jam pieces together, Detective Markowitz begins trying to create this amalgamation of a story for you here today. And along the way, he misses critical pieces to that puzzle: an alternative suspect, a credible alibi, and a scheming witness. Your Honor, counsel, members of the jury, my name is Madeline Proctor, and together with Ashlyn Vierick and Chalmers Powell, we had the privilege to represent Miss Becker in today's case. She's a flawed but innocent young woman. Avery Becker had the right to remain silent, but instead, she chose to tell you what really happened. She was with her friend on March 6th, and she doesn't know where her phone was. And you can believe her because you did focus on the three things: a screenshot, cell towers, and a stronger suspect. A screenshot. Can't trust it. The prosecution wants you to believe that Miss Becker sent those text messages. Really? Alex Fuentes is the one who gave the detective that screenshot. You remember her. She's the one who said all of those negative things about Miss Becker. She's the one who does twice the work and gets none of the credit. She's the one who conveniently forgot her phone the day of the interview. And she's the one who waited a full day to send the screenshot to the detective. Those texts were faked. But more importantly, you cannot trust the screenshot because Detective Markowitz failed to do his job. Today, he was recognized as an expert in cell phone analysis, but the only phone he downloaded or analyzed was the victim's. He never downloaded Mr. Perkins' phone to confirm the alibi. He never downloaded Ms. Fuentes' phone. Detective Markowitz did nothing to check that those texts were even real. An investigation is only as good as its detective. And this cell phone analysis expert took that screenshot at face value. Cell towers. The cell tower records are just dangerous enough to accuse Ms. Becker, but they say nothing about her actual location. They don't work as a GPS, and she did not have her phone. The phone can ping wherever it wants to. She didn't have it. A stronger suspect. The prosecution wants you to believe that the person in the Halloween mask, the hoodie, and the gloves was Miss Becker. In reality, members of the jury, there is one suspect who fits that description, that size and build, and the puzzle to a T. Blair Rollins. The suspect who blames Coach Brackman for his father being put in jail for life. The suspect who lives in the same cell tower arc as Miss Becker. The suspect who was missing then and is still missing now. That is means, motive, and opportunity. Members of the jury, the prosecution had the burden of proof in today's case to prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that each and every element of each and every crime, including the first element of every crime, that the defendant. Screenshot, cell tower, and a stronger suspect. Each is reasonable doubt. They have failed you. In just a moment, my opposing counsel will get up here and try to explain away everything we just talked about. Don't let him. Ask him this question and make him answer it. If Detective Markowitz was really an expert in cell phone analysis, why didn't he download Alex Fuentes' phone? Because justice doesn't come in a box with a picture on top, Detective Markowitz. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel.
Your
Mr.
Honor, I
Walker?
believe. Thank you. The defense would like you to think that there was a jump to conclusions about this case by Detective Markowitz. Detective Markowitz used his years of experiences in this line of work to refine the possible culprits, pile up evidence against that individual, and follow that lead. He had no reason to believe that Avery's phone was tampered with. The possibility of Avery Becker being the perpetrator presented countless instances of undeniable evidence that have been presented today. Additionally, there was absolutely no evidence presented against Alex Fuentes nor Blair Rollins that was anything beyond speculative. You heard from the defense. She's a flawed woman. She vandalized her coach's car, broke into the house, and in the end, killed him. This case was built with the knowledge that by the end, the prosecution would show without a reasonable doubt that Avery Becker committed this crime. The prosecution has met this burden. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Well, thank you, guys. You made it. Good job. Congratulations to every single one of you. I think it's brilliant. I would not have even wanted to attempt this via Zoom. It's a lot of work, and you guys did a great job. To the timekeepers, when you are finished adding up the points, just give me the thumbs up so I know that you're done. For all the rest of you, I hope that both of you teams make it on. You both did real well. I hope you make it on to the next stage, although I know it means a lot more work, but it's always going to be fun. And for those of you that are seniors that kind of get to have to miss out on a lot of stuff, I'm sorry. I really am. But by the time you're in college, hopefully everything will be ready and be fun for you, and you'll be enjoying life. I can remember college, but I sure don't remember high school much. So you got more fun years to look forward to. There are all sorts of stuff like this mock trial that you can do in college. It's really fun. I did Model United Nations in college, and that was really fun. We got to travel around the country and pretend to be countries and research countries rather than issues and argue about that. So there's lots of stuff. You guys are gonna just enjoy it. Enjoy college. It's fun.
So, Judge, are we supposed to read anything into
lot
the
of
fact that
fun.
you can't remember high school?
Shoot, I can't remember much. I'm getting too old. But yeah, no. I probably shouldn't remember college. There's stuff I remember about college that I probably shouldn't remember. Luckily, the statute of limitations has run on that, so I'm pretty good with that.
I think we've all got, I
Are
think
you
we've got
finished, Mr.
confirmation that
Rich?
we've all submitted. Yeah, I think we've got
Great.
confirmation that we've all submitted.
All right. Ms. Forbes, are you done? Scoring? All right, Ms. Forbes, ladies
Yes, ma'am.
first.
Oh, I'm first? Okay. I just want to echo Judge LaFave, in congratulating you. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Alicia Forbes, and I currently work as an assistant United States attorney. So I'm a federal prosecutor, and I've been working as a federal prosecutor since 2011. But I went to DU Law, and back when I was in law school, I did mock trial competitions. I coached high school mock trial. I've judged a bunch of these competitions. So I know very much how much work this is and how much commitment and time you all put into it. And it's very clear from the presentations today that you have put in that time and effort. But I also know how much harder it was to do that this year in particular, and to do it in this format. And you all did so well doing that. So I am just, totally floored by the presentations that we've seen, particularly what you all did in this round. It was really great, and you should really be proud of yourselves because, and I just thank you for choosing to put in the commitment despite all these difficulties. And I can tell you that the struggle is very real when it comes to these technical difficulties. This is, I've had to do direct examinations and cross examinations via Zoom, and it's very strange. So good job in doing that. And I just wanted to, encourage you all and say thank you for doing that. And I just wanted to make a couple of comments, sort of kind of talk about what I thought each of you did the best. Ms. Martin, I thought that your opening was great. That beginning really, you had really good storytelling in the beginning of that. You had a good theme that the rest of your colleagues kind of took and pulled throughout as well. So that was great. Mr. Walker, you did a great job on direct examination, getting your exhibits admitted and walking through your expert voir dire. And Miss Gisele, I hope it's in it, Gisele. I also thought you did a great job on direct examination and sort of not getting flustered when you didn't get sort of everything you wanted, but being able to move on and and get your points across. When you weren't able to get the exhibits you needed, you got your other ones, and you were you just stayed perfectly poised and got what you still needed. Ms. Fierick, I thought particularly your cross examination was great. You made your few great points, you made them effectively, but without, sort of crossing that border into argument. But we all knew what you were trying, the point that you were trying to make. You got in, you got out, and it was, and I thought that was very effective. Mr. Powell, I thought, both your direct and cross were good, but particularly I liked how I could tell in your cross examination that you were, it wasn't just sort of your prepared script. Obviously, you all are well prepared. You've done this. This is your fourth time doing it just in the past 2 days. But I could tell that you were being particularly responsive to the direct examination that had just happened. That you had, to sort of steal the prosecution. They've improv'd your cross to be particularly reflective of that, and I thought that was a really good job. Ms. Proctor. I thought your closing argument was again really it was a really good bookend and reflection of the opening statement, again tying in the theme, tying in really good arguments. Even just sort of the way you guys both planned your even visually, kind of recalling the opening statement and really hitting your theme home and those points, your best arguments, highlighting those. I thought that was really well done. I also, want to commend the witnesses. They did really great, especially, the defense witnesses. That's hard to do sometimes, to be on the defense side of a criminal case and sort of come across effectively. But yeah, I thought all the witnesses did a great job, particularly the defense ones. But, congratulations again, and, best of luck.
Thank you. Mr. Rich?
Yeah, Ms. Forbes covered a lot of it. One of the things that we learned as judges, I judged 4 rounds between yesterday and today, and they kept telling us that they were going to be matching up power ranking teams. And it's clear to me that we were lucky enough to judge the 2 teams that probably had the best power rankings going into the last round, because there was very few flaws in the presentations today. You guys were both fabulous, and I have no doubt that these are probably the 2 strongest teams of the competition. I want to have a shout out to all of the witnesses. You guys were fantastic. Mr. Merriweather, as Mr. Van Owen, who was probably the weakest defense or the weakest expert on paper, you somehow turned that around, and you're great. Ms. Bruner, you're obviously a very talented actress. And you played that role of Avery very well. Almost over the top, some of the facial expressions, but yeah, you're clearly very talented. But all of the witnesses, Mr. Perkins, Mr. Schultz as Perkins, you were a great best friend, and then our Mr. Fuentes, it's everybody was just really great. Mr. Elder is Markowitz, right off the box. I thought you were, I'd be happy to have you as an expert witness anytime. So I think everybody did fantastic in that regard. So just a lot of shout out to the experts. I did like the opening of the prosecution. Had no plan, never did. Improvising, it fit your, that was a great theme for the case, and I agree that it was really followed through all the way through. And then on the defense side, with Ms. Barrick and Ms. Proctor bookending the puzzles, and I love each and every element of each and every crime. It's a great phrase, and you both used it, and so I think that was really strong. One of the things that I noticed with respect to hearsay, when someone was talking about what Avery was supposed to say, when there was allegations of what Avery said, and there were the prosecution was talking about this, a statement of a party opponent is not hearsay. So if you're the prosecution and the defendant says a thing, that's not hearsay. It may be hearsay for the defense to bring that up, but it's not hearsay for the plaintiff for the prosecution to bring it up, because it's a statement of a party opponent. So just know that. You guys knew your rules really well, everybody. I like how the defense moved to strike things when the testimony was objected to, and the objection was sustained. That was good. Let's see. Mr. Walker, when you were qualifying Mr. Markowitz, I like how you negated his any bias that he might have during your qualification. That was really well done. So Mr. Powell, when you objected to the report and that objection was sustained, usually expert reports are hearsay and they're not admitted. And so I consider that exhibit to be hearsay, or to be a report essentially. So I think that was a good objection, and it got sustained, so well done. let's see. When you're asking questions that are in somebody's statement, just ask the question, ask the fact. Don't mention it's in the statement. I think it was, let's see, who was it? Maybe Ms. Proctor, who objected to improper impeachment. That's right. It's not, you don't have to refer to the statement when you're asking the question. Just ask the question. You felt like this, and you know that because they said it. And if they deny it, then you impeach them with the statement. So that was a good objection, Ms. Proctor. All in all, I can go on for a long time because you guys had so many good points throughout. But just really impressed with this group. Well done.
Mr. Hep?
First, just to echo a lot, everyone did exceptionally well. Some highlights, I thought both openings were real strong. Some great attention grabbers to make the story real and start building things for the jury or for whoever's listening. And throughout, all the directs, really good job stepping through the evidence. And then the crosses, a real good job stepping through what the weaknesses were. So real good attention to detail on that. It's been said, but everybody, these were the best witnesses in the 4 rounds I've seen. And it really adds, like, first, you're part of a team, and it's very important for those witnesses to be strong. But then it adds so much to the direct and the flavor of that. And then the slight pushing back, but there's always a limit when you're getting crossed. So great job for the witnesses. Last thing, a lot of adversity for y'all this year. And then a chance to grow going forward. This was a chance to try something new for some of you, try something you had done before, but it's just another rep in building your character, going forward on a skill that you're going to use, whether it's in the law or anywhere else. So congratulations on that. And my sincere thanks for doing this. I was very impressed.
Thank you. All right, guys, I have front back of notes, but I'm not going to go through it. Everybody covered stuff real well. The one thing, Ms. Viereck, your objection was good as to the text messages at the beginning. I have to kind of rule to not gut someone's case. The response to that is admission by party opponent, as Mr. Rich said, and the witnesses' statements were in those texts were just to put the admission by party opponent in context. So if you ever get that objection again, that's something you can say. And that leads me to, folks, your objections are great, but don't let an objection throw you off. And don't be afraid to respond to that objection, even if it's going to get sustained, even if it's going to get overruled. Don't worry, respond, don't give up. If you're giving up because of a time thing, then say that. Say, Your Honor, for time's sake, I'll move on. Because we know that, that makes it sound more like I know the response, but I'm purposely not saying it because I just am going to move on, versus not saying anything. You guys are, if you're good enough at your objections and knowing what they are, you're going to be good enough at the responses, because it's the same thing. It's just the opposite side of a coin. So trust yourselves. You guys are really, really good. Trust yourselves. The one thing is, though, Ms. Viereck, on the, I previously made this objection, don't do that. Because all that's going to do is make the judge think, well, fine, you may have previously made it, but I ain't going to sustain it this time. So your objection is good. Don't let your objection stand. Don't worry about it, okay? And if the judge does the wrong thing, which often we do, don't worry about that either. Just flow with it, go with it. Make it look like, oh, I expected that. So don't worry about it. You guys know, and always the attorneys know more about the case than the judge. I have walked into cases not having any idea except for the charge about what it's about. I don't see the police reports. I don't see anything. So you tell me it's true, I'm probably going to believe it. So be that confident. Okay? You guys are going to do great. I hope you continue on. And if you don't continue on, I hope that you come back next year, because I want to see you live. Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you all. We do have all the score sheets in. Just so you know, students, your teachers will be getting who moves on. We are not having any kind of ceremony, which is my devastation, because I love that. But congratulations, you guys did awesome. And we will see you next year, okay?
Don't do too much homework.